you look so concerned.
I am concerned.
No college going on right now. I doubt that you're betting on a video game without me, right?
No, I'm not. I haven't made a bet today, so
Just made
probably
one.
why I look concerned.
Maryland Eastern Shore. Let's go. All right, here we go. All right, welcome in. We are officially 1 week in. What are you laughing at already?
Hey, just start your intro. Keep going.
Ben Rasa, that's Ben. Eytan Shander, that's me. Chris is producing, and you are joining us for another edition of Putting for Dough. That's right, the most comprehensive, entertaining, educating golf show on the planet, and it only takes about 20 minutes or so, give or take. That's right, we've already built it that way a minute into it, so you only have this to go here, Ben, to live up to those expectations. We had one of the biggest implosions outside of Greg Norman, possibly, that we saw with Colin Morikawa. Look, it's the first week of our show, so now we're into week 2. Now we get a longer field. We get some fun. We get less money available. So there are a lot of things, but we'll stay in Hawaii if that's okay with you.
It's okay with me. Yeah, we got the season off. You know, it's 39-man field, but we had some drama. And I don't say that too often when a world-class golfer is minus 10,000 live to win a tournament. You kind of just say, okay, it's time to watch some NFL football. And that's what I did. And then I looked and Rahm had made 3 straight birdies and an eagle. And I still thought, well, it's time to watch some football. And then Morikawa really melted down. He did not make a bogey on the first, I believe, 67 holes of that tournament. And then he went 3 straight bogeys late. Just a meltdown. He's an unbelievable player. He's going to be just fine. You don't see that too often. And Jon Rahm adds another win as the tournament favorite to get the season started.
Yeah, think about that, right? We stayed away from Rahm for obvious reasons because there just was no value at the top of the leaderboard. He cashes that, but if you did decide to go that way, you were watching us last week and you already hit the thumbs up button, of course, and subscribe to the Odd Shopper channel, but we'll remind you this week as well and tell you about some cool things happening. Then you're sweating out an already bad value ticket. Like, that's just a tough win. Congratulations, you won. I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody who hit Jon Rahm, but think about what it took, right? To make a cross-sport analogy, it's like 2 kickoff returns to cover a spread.
I mean, the thing about the Rahm tickets is that, and listen, this is how golf kind of goes. You could have picked up Rahm basically at any point in the tournament for significantly better odds.
Great point.
You could have picked up Rahm on Sunday for north of 100 to 1. Now, why would you have done that? I don't know. It seemed like he had no chance to win the tournament, but it just shows you got to play the full 72. And that's what I love about these events. I'm so excited for the Sony because we're going to see guys get off to slow starts and we're going to be able to bet them live. We'll talk about insider access, of course, during this show, but we got a lot more golfers to break down. And another, you mentioned less money. It's still north of $1 million up for grabs at the top here.
Absolutely. And that makes this an interesting, deeper field by all means to look at. The course a little different and how we'll approach it as well. We talked about guys like Hovland last week that didn't come to fruition. Spieth was hovering by all means, but you know, the whole spray and pray approach doesn't really work this week. So let's look at and shift right from last week to the Sony Open. But we told you we have some cool things happening here. The easiest thing you can do is turn $5 into $200. All you need to do is take 90 seconds out of your life. Honestly, it's going to be a quick process. We have a link already here for you. So you don't need to fumble around and find something. It's just a link right below us. It's going to bring you immediately to DraftKings. And then from there, again, this is all part of the 90-second window. You just sign up, link an account, could be a bank account, PayPal, what have you, it doesn't matter. And then immediately deposit $5, right? So now you have your $5 into your account and bet that $5. Ben will tell you to take something in college basketball. You can take something in the NBA. It doesn't matter truly what you bet because as soon as you place the bet, you'll see $200 instantly in your account. So we'd love for you to hit the bet, but that's kind of tertiary here. We just want you to place the bet and then place the bet and make sure you place the bet because that's how you're going to get that $200 right back into your account. Now, you could take on whenever you're watching this. If the national championship game's still there, you could bet a heavy favorite like Georgia bet. You could take the $5 and put it on TCU. If crazy stuff happens, then that bet hits. But either way, you're just getting the money back immediately.
Doesn't get easier than that. Like I said, bet your favorite team, bet a dog, bet a favorite, bet a total. The board is yours. You're going to get $200. Can't say it any easier than that. I know, as I said, we have 1 million people in our Discord who have taken advantage of this, and they've got that $200 and they've turned it into something special. And now they have money to play with that they wouldn't normally have. So definitely a good opportunity. And now maybe we put it on a golfer. Maybe we just cash the outright with it and get extra dangerous.
That would be nice.
That would be nice.
That would be nice. All right, let's look at the top of this board as well as, how we look at the course itself. Mentioned that there's going to be a little bit of a different approach, and I imagine that that's going to factor into where, not just value for you, Ben, but where you're looking at specific golfers. The two big things I guess we can look at with this course that maybe change from last week is it's not so much distance off the tee as it is accuracy off the tee. As we've seen here, guys will settle for being a little more accurate than length. And also maybe this is just the trend of 2023, but short game with that thicker rough may play a role in there. So let's start with the top tier for you.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Waialae's a little different. We're still in Hawaii. It's still going to be easy. And this is something that's talked about often, and there's multiple reasons for it. Traditionally, I'm going to look to someone who played last week. One, that means they're a good player, because to get in the TOC, you got to be pretty good. Two, they got some reps, and you see it at the top of the board. I'm not doing some quick math here. I think like the top 8 or 9 in terms of the odds all played last week. So it's not a stretch to say I think the winner comes from someone that did play last week in the TOC. And I'm going to get things started with names that I kind of mentioned already. Jordan Spieth is still in a pretty good price range for me. He's 16-1 out there, 14, 15, anything in that range I'm totally okay with. We saw him play, I thought, really well. He didn't cash an outright for me, anything like that, but he was up there. He represented himself just fine in there. Not the best Sunday in the world, but still. I was really happy. He was positive tee to green. We know he can get electric with the putter. And this field doesn't have Rahm. This field doesn't have, Scheffler and some of these big time names. The drop off, Tom Kim, just for reference, is at the top of the board. And he's a damn good player, but it's still a guy with less experience, certainly doesn't have the hardware that some of those other guys have. So give me Spieth. And if I can, I'm just going to throw one more name out there with Corey Connors, who also played pretty well last week. He was 18th. Lost strokes putting, positive with the irons, just a vintage Corey Connors performance, 25-1 out there. I actually think this course may suit him a little better. Again, if he can dial it in with the approach, and that is the strength of his game, I wouldn't be stunned to see him compete. He's got a good track record here.
Great track record.
These are the type of courses that I think we could see him thrive in. He was 3rd here just a couple of years ago, and he gained 7.1 with the approach that week. That is what I'm talking about. Corey Connors, he might be my favorite name amongst everyone.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have the benefit of creating the sheet first, so you always pick the best ones out there. And if you combine what you were looking for, then honestly, he has to be. And the beauty of Connors here is he's probably a little mispriced. And look, you could argue that overall, maybe from a consistent standpoint, maybe this is where he should be in this field, but we'll get to a couple of other guys here. I mean, we brought up Matsuyama last week. Do you trust him this week at those odds higher than Connors? No. And another guy that I'm going to bring up, Henley aside and Harmon aside, like Spieth is a good guy at 1,400, and I think that's reflected on the fact that he hasn't played consistently well here, but is still a top level player. So you have to put him up there, and he's not 1,200, right? So maybe that's the difference of the value there. So I like where the numbers are by all means. And Corey Connors at 2,500 seems to be a steal, to be honest with you. Anybody that's really like 3,500 or better at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Again, this is someone, the number one thing, if I want to just speak in macro terms, is don't overreact to much of anything last week. We've seen time and time again, guys go to the TOC, play like garbage, and then win Sony. It does not matter. I just want him to get reps. I saw plenty from Corey Connors. He is set up perfectly. I will have just a little tease for the people. One and done season is starting. There's going to be a lot of content. Corey Connors going to be, I have a one and done video on this very channel. Look out for that. Corey Connors is going to be in that video for sure.
Nice. All right. Let me throw 2 names out at you. Something happened. I don't know who the hell bet up Brian Harmon, but he was definitely not at 1,600 when I put him on the sheet earlier. So he has dipped. Did he just take significant money?
I can, again, we always speak to shop these lines. I see I see a 20-1 still out there, but
Okay.
he is dropping at some of the books because another guy who can get really hot with the putter. He's done that at Sony before, and he probably belongs in that range.
Yeah, and I think you've seen results here too, so I get it. And now the problem with Brian Harman is that he's a secret that's not going to last long, right? I mean, we record this on Monday before the event, and he was dipping as we're recording this basically Monday at noon Eastern. So the secret, there's no secret. Like, well, I put him in there because I saw him at 20-1, just north, I thought initially. So that was the thinking. And you're right. Now the number will probably take him out. Like, don't play Brian Harman at 16-1 when you know he was still at 20-1 and probably higher before that dip came. I don't think there's enough value for Brian Harman personally, Ben. Maybe you disagree, to take the worst of it in this tournament.
I mean, again, I think you can shop it. If you can find one of those hanging numbers, I think that's fine. To me, you run into the question, you don't have unlimited options. And I personally would rather play Jordan Spieth at that number than Brian Harman. I think that's where I would put my money. And there's plenty of other bets besides outrights that we're going to get to. I think if I'm betting an outright in the 16-1 range, it is Jordan Spieth before it's Brian Harman.
I'm going to get to Hogue coming up at the end of the show here. So that's my little tease.
Okay.
So, he can't be a long shot, right? Because he's going to come back into this. But outside of Corey Connors, I actually think, and I'm going to appeal to what you said about playing last week, but not necessarily needing to play well, just getting reps because of that tournament. Look, Russell Henley has won here. Russell Henley has won Mayakoba last year. Russell Henley has put together at least a week of tournament play last week. I know it wasn't standout dominant, but he's at 22-1 amidst a couple of guys right now who, outside of Connors, I don't think you can point to that consistent history. And again, like, Matsuyama's the wild card. Harman has dipped. Spieth should be at 14-1. And then you start to work back, like McNeely, Keith Mitchell, guys who have history here, but I don't necessarily know if they have the consistent game as Henley. So if Henley is still north of 22-1 or north of that, I think that's a play for me as somebody who you can still argue is in the top tier.
Yeah, I mean, Russell Henley, it's pretty much the same story as almost every event for the second half of 2022. He was fine ball striking. He gained 3.5 strokes on the approach. He lost 6 strokes putting. If you lose 6 strokes putting, it's basically impossible to contend. And that's what he has been doing. He had a stretch there where he lost strokes putting in 6 straight events, and then he won the next week when he flipped the putter. That's just what we're dealing with him. I worry about where the putter is, but maybe got some reps. Again, Bermuda split shouldn't be a problem. If anything, it should be an asset. You just can't lose that many strokes putting and expect to see anything besides a middling finish.
So if you're just scoring, but you're not like losing, and let me just simplify this macro to your point here. If you're not losing strokes and if you're not falling behind because of your putter and your putter is stable, not even like the vehicle for success, Ben, but right, like not becoming the detriment. Now you're talking about a guy who I think fits this course really well off the tee, both strokes gained off the tee and accuracy off the tee. Henley in this field, I think, stands out. So we go back to like Hovland last week, right? There's going to be a guy who I think fits like 4 of 5 or 3 of 4 or 5 of 6, whatever they may be. And the one happens to be putting. So that's the biggest one here for me. And look, if Henley can put it together and not fall apart, I think he's got a shot.
Yeah, I mean, putting is fluky. It's random. Guys get hot. Morikawa was second in strokes gained putting last week. I said the same thing about Morikawa last week. If he ever putts, he's going to be right there. And that's like Henley. So you don't know when it's going to happen. It just needs to happen. And if it does, you'll have some value there.
Let's look at the mid-range and see what we can find here in this wide gap that we've established on putting for dough as the mid-range, which can be anything at this point.
It can really be anything.
Which I love, by the way. But it
Adam
really
Scott. Adam Scott, I'm calling him a mid-range 35-1 out there. Simple formula. He played last week. I obviously like to see that. A guy that seems ready to play. He's got, unlimited experience on tour. Plus 2.5 off the tee. Positive with the irons. Minus 5.7 strokes gained putting at Century. That's unacceptable. You can't do that. If he flips that, he had gained strokes putting in 3 straight before that And that was obviously not relevant time period wise, but it's not like in 2022, his putting was a disaster. It was fine. He's got to flip the putter. I think the ball striking can and will be there. And it's still Adam Scott. I actually think he could have a big year. He's got plenty of reps at Sony, a mixed bag of results, but tee to green, he should have no problems. Just need to sync up the putter. And that ball striking, we could have a steal at 35-1.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised he hasn't caught any steam on this either. Like we've seen that pick up. 35-1 is a pretty strong number for him. And then you start to look around in guys that he's playing with, Spawn, you've got Woo Kim there, Siwoo as well at 4K. And then I guess that crew would be Billy Horschel, Keith Mitchell, two guys that I'm fading, mind you, in a trio. But I think Scott, I wouldn't be surprised if Scott closed closer to 3 or maybe even like 2,800. Would you?
Yeah, I mean, no, I wouldn't be. I think right now
3,000 probably 30-1.
Of course. Yeah. I think people are maybe at a first glance saying, he didn't play good last week. He came in 29th. He didn't, but he lost. What are you supposed to do when you lose 5+ strokes putting? That easily could have been a top 10, 15. And I think he would have more interest. So I've got him, and then I'll just get this out of the way so we don't have to talk about it. My man Griot, he did not play last week for obvious reasons.
Yep.
He's not allowed in those type of events, but he's still sitting 45-50-1. Ball striking has been there. The putter actually he found something. I don't know what he did, but he had gained strokes putting in 6 straight events late in 2022. That's just unheard of for him. I'm going to say the same thing for every golfer. If he can sync up his good ball striking and this new putting, he could win this. And we've seen for Sony, just to step back one more time, a lot of random people win this. It's not like the favorites are winning at Sony. Look at the historic success. You see triple digits, 50-1, 70-1 type guys all the time win here.
I like that though. Well, first off, let's just not bury.
I mean, it's Korea. What can I say?
Exactly. We need, maybe Chris can do this. Maybe you can record like a 60-second short that we can just insert, which is just the obligatory griots on the card.
For time saving, I like that idea.
Exactly. All right, I'm going to get somebody, I'm going to buy low, right? Which I think there's going to be some value here at 55-1 for, if you just look at the isolated course history for Webb Simpson at this particular place, he has played exceptionally well outside of last year. But last year was dog shit across the board, right? Health is an issue. Consistency is an issue. You can point to some things. When you are as bad as he was last year, I think it's been, 7 or 8 starts. I had it here before, no top 50 over his last 8. That's horrible. And the game and the metrics and the data and what you're losing, where you're losing strokes, none of it's going to look good. I'm not saying that I think Webb has a shot like Jordan Spieth does or like Russell Henley does. But I think that when you look at Webb Simpson playing well, this is a place that he has a strong sense of comfort. He's got course history. He's 7 players over the last 5 years with 3 minimum appearances. I know last year sucked, but with at least 3 where he's made the cut. He's top 10 in strokes gained overall in this field at this place too. So at the Sony, that's all I'm appealing to, Ben. Course history, and if he's not as shit as he was last year, 55-1 all of a sudden seems like a decent number.
It's going to be a real interesting name all week because Webb Simpson dominates this course, and Webb Simpson was non-competitive in 2022.
Correct.
So you're saying one of two things. Either the data from last year is bad data and he's healthy now and we're buying low, or the course history is bad data and he's just not the same golfer as he's been historically. One of those has to be true. And we're going to find out, not just, in one tournament, but just this year, because Webb is either going to be undervalued in the markets for a while, or his best days are simply behind him and he doesn't have that ceiling. And all the course history at some of these events is now going to be, inflated because he's just simply not that golfer. At 55-1, I think it's worth paying to find out. I don't have a problem with that, but I think we're both saying the downside on Webb Simpson is going to be missed cuts at places where he never misses the cut.
Yeah, and that's the risk, but it's the same reason. And I know this works. Maybe it sounds contradictory to people out there, but you can help me talk through it as well. That's the reason why I'm taking this risk buying low here, is because if there is going to be a place where Webb can find something, it's most likely here, and it's not in an area or a course or just a time of the season in which he's routinely struggled. And yeah, you're right. Last year, let's just hope, because if I'm wrong, then he's going to miss the cut.
I mean, I think it's more pertinent for DFS than outright betting. Some of that, because, you know, if he misses the cut or comes in 13th or 29th, you're going to lose your outright bet.
Right.
In DFS, those are vastly different outcomes. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know what his pricing is in DFS this week, but he may not be a bad longer.
Interesting discussion topic. That's
absolutely.
for sure.
I'll let you and the people who win money in DFS handle that. All right.
Fair enough.
So we're going to get you. I don't know where you're going here, and I'm kind of up in the air a little bit about the long shot, but let's just tell everybody about what's happening with our Discord, because we still have this first week free and an opportunity for people to jump in and really be part of this community that we've established. Ben, all of us that you see on here on our YouTube channel, we have our insider access page. We're handing out plays with conversations. It was a big spirited back and forth Sunday night leading up to that football game about what would happen, and Aaron Rodgers, this or Detroit, Ben, and my channel, and just the community element on top of the picks, on top of the access that you're getting. And all of this just comes with the first free week.
It's awesome. Again, I talked about John Rahm before the tournament. I didn't have a lot of interest. And I'm not saying if you were in Discord, I suddenly am giving out John Rahm at 100-1. But if you had a question about who's a live golfer that can make a move, what better place than to ask the community of people who were doing this, people who are breaking down these numbers, not just us, but all the fellow people in there. It's just a really good opportunity to sweat out some things, whether it's golf, football, the NFL playoffs. March Madness will be here soon enough. And like you said, come in for the week. And then if you say, oh, that was cool, but it's not for me, you've lost absolutely nothing. It's that simple. It takes 10 seconds to get in there, and then you hang out, hopefully cash some tickets.
Awesome. Again, click the link. Everything here is for you. It's easy. We have links, so you don't need to search anything. You don't need to open up a new window. It'll do it all for you. And you can pop in, hang out, and say, hey, Ben, just signed up from the Odd Shopper channel. I'm putting for dough. Yeah. Long shot. By the way, Grillo pops in a lot of these categories here. So I wouldn't be surprised if he actually did something, whatever, but does something, since
I'd be surprised. He's never once ever done something for me, but that would be useful for sure.
Yeah, I was a little surprised about how well he rated at this place. Long shot. What are you looking at? Not just a name, but in this particular course, you mentioned that it's still going to be easy. So it's not as difficult as you would think, right, for the top guys in other areas, but there's going to be value at triple digits for sure. You just have to find it.
Oh, there's definitely listen, no disrespect to Tom Kim and Jordan Spieth and Sungjae. I mean, Brian Hart, like if one of the top guys doesn't win, you could see someone at triple digits win this tournament. Now there's a million guys to choose from and it's very difficult. But I'm going to throw out just a couple names that at least caught my eye. Maybe I use them in a top 20 or a top 40 or something like that. Steven Yeager would be the first one. Steven Yeager's like, yeah, man. Listen, I know he hasn't broken through on tour at all, but we've seen him win, Korn Ferry and things of that nature. Got on tour. It was pretty rough. And then he found something. Late in 2022, he really started to go. He made 9 of 10 cuts to close that year. He had a 5th at Rocket Mortgage, a 9th at the Houston Open, and he gained strokes putting in 8 of them. Then I look at his success or lack of success at Sony at this tournament. He played it 3 times. Nothing that stood out. He lost strokes putting in all 3 of those events. So I'm saying, okay, I think this guy's really found something with the putter. I'm going to pair that up for what was fine tee to green play at Sony before and hope to hit lightning in a bottle. The guy's 100-1 out there in the market. You're going to get plus money on top 5s, top 10s, top 20s, top 40. You're going to get plus all the way up the board. Steven Yeager as an extreme dark horse. And then my man, I don't even know how I'll justify this one except to say that Troy Merritt at times is one of the best Bermuda putters on earth. And at other times it's non-existent. But he is someone that has popped. If you want to take the comp, you said Russell Henley. Yeah. And you referenced his win. Right. Well, who came in 3rd in that tournament? That was Troy Merritt. So if you want to say that some of that comp's over, I totally get it. This is another guy that you're asking to catch lightning in a bottle. He has no success at Sony, really doesn't seem to like this course. But at the same time, we've seen time and time again, Course history is very volatile. You're 130 to 1 here. He can show that he can get in the mix in events. He's got multiple top fives on tour. I think that Troy Merritt, you know, he's a multiple time winner on tour. It's over a decade, but the guy's won tournaments, and I'm not going to advocate for him to win, but I am advocating to take a look at him in the triple digits.
Yeah, I don't know what I can add on the ladder.
I mean, what can you say? It's Troy Merritt.
Jaeger intrigues me at 100 to 1. I would think that his number would be a little closer to a guy that I wanted to ask you about before we move on and kind of hit our final card here. It's not good when your third achievement on your top 3 achievements is a miscut.
Yeah, that can't be good.
No, but I wonder if you have any interest in a guy who, if he got his putting together, and Brendan Steele at 80 to 1, he doesn't have the course history here either.
I mean, I don't care. I don't think that that's a big deal. Like, especially with a guy like Brendan Steele. He's been
no, I take it back. He finished second in 19.
Even so, like I said, these guys, they play. Yeah, I mean, Brendan Steele, actually, looking at his course history, it's not bad.
Good here.
Yeah, I mean,
he tied 4th in 20. Like this, that's what I'm saying. He's 80 to 1. So maybe he puts it. It's either here or the Travelers.
I mean, yeah, Brendan Steele is one of those guys we've seen, you know, Fortnite comes to, like, when he wins, he seems to win the same event, or he likes where he plays. Sony, he's got long gaps. Like, he played way back 10 plus years ago. Then he didn't come here for quite a while. Then he's come here in recent years, had some success, missed the cut last year. I don't really care about any of that. Brendan Steele, you kind of know what you're getting in some iterations. He struggles to putt at times, and he takes himself out of tournament. Really going to have to do his damage off the tee. I think you could do worse. I mean, I haven't really seen him pop up anywhere where I look at names. And I think that's fine. To me, I would look, you've got Chris Kirk right there. You've got Steven Jaeger right there, Ryan Palmer right there, all different types of players. But I think Brendan Steele's probably appropriately priced in the outright market. You're really asking, can his putter and short game do it? Because it's been awful lately. I don't know how else to spin it.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's 80 to 1, bet.
Yeah.
So
there's nothing that stands out either way to me. He's shown, we kind of discovered this on the show a little bit, because again, I don't think course history is that important. He's shown he can compete here, but I just want to point out for reference, he gained 6 strokes putting when he came in second here. He gained another 5 strokes putting when he came in 4th here. So you're telling me a bad putter has to putt really well to compete here, and that's what he's going to need to do again if he gets in the mix.
He's the poor man's Henley. All right, let's.
Not the worst thing I've ever heard.
This week, at least. All right, final card. All right, and we'll remind everybody what's going on before we get the hell out of here. And again, we're doing this very early in the week. There's no just lock this up. Nobody's bringing a sledgehammer out and slamming the tables. Lock this thing up. Just, we don't even know when tee times are. We have no idea, but we're giving you the early value on the boards, and also some ways, and maybe some outside the box ways in which you can approach some guys. So let's run it back, Ben, your final card.
Yeah, certainly. Again, I just can't say enough about how things could change. That's why you want to be in Discord and whatnot. But to me, Corey Connors stands out. He checks all the boxes that I want. Played last week. His ball striking is good. He's played at Sony. He's 25 to 1. It's the right number. He is the guy that I'm focused on up top. And then I really do think that you can expand when you look to the Grios in the mid-range, when you look to even Adam Scott. You mentioned Steele, Jaeger, those types. I think all you want to do, though, is make sure you're shopping and allocating. I don't think all of them need to be outrights. Top 10s, top 20s, things where you at least have a chance to get it back. It's great to cash 100 to 1, but that's a lotto ticket. You know, if Jaeger comes in 8th, get some money, get some return for your work there. And that's what I plan to do. Corey Connors up top, and then guys like Grio, Scott, Jaeger at various levels.
I'm going to do the same with Henley up top. For me, that's the lone outright that I'm going to play. And then I'm going to take the Webb play, and, obviously going to put a sprinkle on the outright, but I'm saying,
of course,
the top 20 approach there with Webb, which I think is a realistic ceiling. And I'll expect that as a ceiling, which would be, a top 20 finish. And I think Kurt Kitayama is an interesting name as well, who he's played well, but he wasn't talked about it because there isn't much to show for it, right? Like, if you've ever played golf or frolf or any variation of it, right, you can play well but not score. And I think Kitayama has played well at times, and it just didn't reflect. So he'd be an interesting name. He's in that similar range as Webb, top 20. And then this is the one I wanted to bring up, because I really think that there's a way to play Tom Hogue this week, but I don't know if just the outright. So maybe it is a ladder, and maybe you can do that, but he's got a trio. He's plus 160 in this trio against Billy Ho and Mitchell. And I just think on the surface, Tom Hogue is the better of the three. And this course as well, I would think he's the better fit. Now, Mitchell has history, and I'm not going to discard that. And this isn't a match, right? So it's not like a head-to-head where you have to worry about Billy Horschel. I think Hogue plus 160 is a play for me as well in this trio.
I mean, he is, when he gets hot with the irons, forget it.
I have one concern, but I'm going to let you finish. Sorry.
I mean, he gained 10 strokes on the approach last week, and he came in third. He lost 4 strokes around the green. It's just, the guy's ridiculous with these irons. So I get it. He's taken he's turned himself into a legitimate player on tour. It's not just the win at Pebble, multiple top fives. I have no problem with Tom Hogue. I think it's more, do the odds reflect a lot of the value that we created over the past year? And I think the answer is probably yes, but in a 3-ball, you can definitely look there.
Do you think TCU wins outright?
No.
Okay, that I'm fine with this bet. The only way that I would be concerned about this bet is if because he's going to be at the national championship game. You know that, right?
I do.
He's the TCU Horned Frog.
So once in a lifetime opportunity, he said.
Look, if Duggan's slinging that rock all over the place and the Horned Frogs win this game outright and shock the world, then Tom Hogue ain't making it to Hawaii. All right, that's all I'm saying.
Well, I hate to tell you, your boy Russell Henley is a Georgia Bulldog, so you got both sides of this game covered.
Yeah, but you're used to that. And
you are. That's true.
Like your
That's
BAC, Russell Henley's BAC from going to UGA is already at like 3-0. So
yeah, he'll be fine. It's just another day in a park for that. I mean, half the golfers are from Georgia, so it doesn't really mean much.
Right. Oh man, at Jazz Raz DFS for Ben, at Shander Show for me. Thanks to Chris as always for producing, for putting up with us, and thanks to you for doing the same. But look, we actually ask something of you in return, right? We want you to subscribe here. 50K, that number looks fantastic. So thank you for being a part of it. And we don't want to just gloss over those who have been here, like the day oneers to newcomers. Doesn't matter how long you've been here to right now. We appreciate you. You all are part of this community. So just hit that button, hit the thumbs up button. That helps us. That helps Ben stay even keel so he doesn't come into work angry that nobody hit the thumbs up button, right?
Right.
All right. We'll see you next week.